Hey guys, let me know what you think by liking and commenting, and it really helps me and this channel out when you subscribe, so please click that button. Thanks a bunch. Hey everyone, lately I started getting into Danish locomotives. I don't have any running and I like running stuff from all over the world, so I thought I might go out and find me one, and this is the one I came up with. Marklin 3174, which is a Danish class MY locomotive, which I'll go into the history a little bit of, but it's has strong American roots. I have a tendency to like locomotives with artwork on the side, so when I saw this one, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get that one. Looks pretty neat, and they haven't made a recent one. Now, they made this one a while ago, and they made it in both analog and Marklin Delta. But I found someone selling this. It was his father's, and apparently he never even took it out of the box ever. I mean, he took the box apart so that he could kind of see this because it looks so cool, but he never actually ran it. In fact, it was so unrun, the motor was actually seized. Everything was seized. Nothing would move at all, so I had to actually disassemble the motor, clean it out, and you actually see this locomotive in one of my videos where I show how to change a large flat commutator motor out and convert it to digital. So if you want to know how to do that, look this up. Well, imagine my surprise when I looked up this locomotive, this exact locomotive, and found that you can actually ride behind it to this very day. Here it is. Why did they preserve this thing? It's old, and if they did preserve it, why did they preserve it with this paint scheme? Well, let's talk about that. To understand this locomotive, I had to understand its origins, and in fact, it has its origins in the Australian Clyde ML2 class, which in itself is a derivative of the Commonwealth Rail GM class, which they started to build in 1951. The GM class is actually based on the EMD F7. Yes, the venerable EMD F7 made in the United States and in Canada. One of the big differences, in order to spread out its weight, this actually ran on 6 axles instead of 4 as we have in the United States and Canada. And this was done strictly to spread the load out because only 4 of the axles are actually powered, just like the F7. Just like the American version, it uses an EMD 567 engine, and they were built by Clyde in Granville, New South Wales. The state of Victoria also wanted these locomotives, but they wanted them to be double-ended so they didn't have to turn them around at the end of a run. And Clyde came up with the ML2 version, or what is known as the Victorian B class. These were first produced in 1952, and in Victoria in particular, they were used primarily for passenger service, but both of these models are still running. They've been upgraded a few times, but you can still find them running around Australia to this day. Well, skipping across, actually in a way, 2 ponds, one pond depending on which way you're going, we find the same locomotive, and it was built by Nyquist and Holm, or Nohab, of Sweden starting in 1954. It's more or less the same locomotive as the Victorian version, but it is lighter and it does have a slightly different geometry. Compared to its Australian and American brethren, the Nohab AA16 has a slightly more curved roof, which changes the front windows. This is to kind of go through European clearances such as tunnels. And it has a more pronounced rake in the front to compensate for these bumpers that they like to use in Europe, but we don't use here in the United States or in Australia. Now, our buddy here, MY1126, was designed and created for the Danish State Railways by Nohab in Sweden, and it was built in 1957. Other than changing liveries once in a while, it lived a pretty prosaic life, hauling both passenger and freight trains all over the place, particularly in Denmark. But our little buddy here was destined for greater things, and in 1988, he, along with a couple other locomotives, were tapped to participate in a trial run of an automatic train control system. That system was designed to allow for driverless operation of trains along a particular timetable, and it used IBM XTs primarily as its main control units. 1126 was brought in and modified in order so that it can complete these tests, and at that time it was repainted into this paint scheme, the circuit paint scheme that it still bears to this day. This system, dubbed the train brain, was used to control the train. It could be set for the train data, how long it was, climb conditions, train weight, and rolling resistance. These could all be programmed into the computer and then it could determine the most economical driving situation. The Danish State Railways anticipated up to 15% energy savings compared to traditionally manually controlled driving. The train brain could be pre-programmed with things like stop patterns for driving, and the train function would be completely driverless, or you could remotely control the train via radio connection. The computer could monitor the functions of the locomotive, including a troubleshooting program which ran on the side. The train brain could also be used to transfer error data into a central database in order to optimize preventative maintenance. In the case of a freight consist, the train brain could be programmed with information about each carriage and optimize its placement in the consist, knowing its destination and drop-off point. When hauling passengers, in addition to the scheduled stops, it could also include reservation information as well as a list of passengers. Beginning in December of 1988 and continuing through 1990, the automatic train control system was trialed in a rail yard south of downtown Copenhagen, and the trial was generally a success. MY1126 and its brethren actually did pretty well and were able to perform autonomous train activities, including stops and starts, and the system worked as well or better than expected. As an aside, one of its stablemates was the similarly painted MX1021, which is effectively the same locomotive, it's just a little bit lighter, and you can purchase this model from HAG if you can find it on the used market. After the train brain trials wrapped up in 1990, the equipment was stripped out of MM126, it was refurbished, but it wasn't repainted, and it was put back into Danish State Railway service, mostly shunting and yard work. The ATC trials eventually produced an ATC system that went into operation in Denmark, and ironically, 1126 was one of the last MY locomotives to receive this train control system. 1126 remained in DSB service until January 2000, when it was finally put to pasture. But don't be sad, folks, because in January of 2002, 1126 was transferred to the Danish Railway Club, and you can actually ride on this train today. In fact, they just had an excursion a couple months ago. So if you want to ride this really historical and really cool looking train, head on over. For the consist to go along with this, I've chosen these blue Marklin DSB cars. I've only ever seen it pulling the brown ones. I don't actually know what the difference is between the blue and the brown ones, but these ones I thought would look really nice with it being dark blue and the other is light blue. Look at them real quick. These are kind of standard Marklin run-of-the-mill fare. They do have interiors, but there's nothing special. They're just one-color interiors. It's funny, at one time, I actually thought that these were great, the fact that they had any interiors now at all, but now I'm like, they're only one color. What's going on with that? To go along with them, I found these Marklin 4269 coaches. I don't know what the difference is. I don't know what the significance of this paint scheme is. If you know, leave me a comment. I really don't. I didn't have time to look into it. I bought these because I thought they looked cool, and that's why I buy a lot of the stuff that I buy, and I think these will look really good running towards the back of that consist. There is one more of these that have snowflakes, and I actually bought it, but it was damaged beyond repair and shipping, so I've got to find another one. Marklin and actually Rocco made them, so hopefully I'll be able to find one of those soon and throw it in the consist as well. Like always, I really appreciate you watching, and hey, I hope you enjoy these Shortline histories. I think I'm going to do more of them because I like this format. I can get through them quickly, and so can you. But be sure to let me know what you think down in the comments. And of course, you can let me know what you think by liking, and you really, really can let me know what you think by actually subscribing. So hey, until next time, please do take care. I will see you later. Happy model railroading.